Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dig into one of the biggest myths in the whole startup world. This idea that your first step, the very first thing you have to do, is go chase investors for a big check. We're going to explore a much more powerful and honestly often overlooked alternative. So let me just ask you, when you picture starting a new company, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it, crafting that perfect pitch deck, practicing your elevator speech over and over, trying to get that one meeting with a venture capitalist? For a lot of us, that's just the default setting. But what if that path is not just incredibly hard, but maybe it's actually counterproductive? Okay, check this out. This quote from Fred Wilson, and he's a super respected venture capitalist. It completely flips that conventional wisdom on its head. He's saying that, from what he's seen, raising less money early on often leads to more success. Now that's a wild idea. So what's really going on here? To really get it, we first have to look at that conventional path and all its hidden dangers, what we can call the investor treadmill. This whole process is just a huge drain. You spend months, literally months, perfecting a business plan for plan A that, let's be honest, almost never survives first contact with the real world. You're trying to convince people to give you a ton of money for an idea that isn't proven, and the odds are just massively stacked against you. It puts all the focus on fundraising, not on the one thing that actually matters, building the business. But what if there was another way? A way to get the cash you need from a much more agreeable and friendly source. And this just nails the alternative perfectly. Another VC, Mark's sister, he just cuts right through all the noise. Instead of pitching investors, pitch your customers. Don't chase capital, make a sale, ring the freaking cash register. That right there is the heart of the customer-funded mindset. So what exactly is customer funding? It's not some crazy complex financial strategy. It's really just a mindset. It's about being absolutely convinced that your number one priority is finding a customer who's willing to pay you so you can build your business with their cash. And the core principle that makes this all work is a classic idea called sitting on the float. Think about Expedia for a second. When you book a hotel room, you pay Expedia right then and there, right? But Expedia doesn't actually pay the hotel until weeks after you've already checked out. For all that time in between, they're using your money, their customers' money, to run and grow their entire business. That gap? That's the float. Okay, so this isn't just some vague concept. There are actual specific strategies you can use to make this happen. Let's break down the 5 main customer-funded models. All right, here's our roadmap for what we're about to cover. We've got 5 core models, from the matchmaker approach that Airbnb used, all the way to the service-to-product path that built Microsoft. Let's dive into each one. First up, we've got matchmaker models. This is genius, really. You just connect buyers and sellers, but you never actually own the stuff being sold. This wipes out what is usually the biggest startup cost for a ton of businesses: inventory. I mean, Airbnb built a global empire without buying a single hotel room. It's brilliant. Next, pay in advance. This one is probably the most straightforward. You just convince your customer to pay you something upfront. Could be a deposit, could be the whole price, before you deliver the goods or the service. That cash they give you becomes your working capital. Then you've got the subscription model. Getting customers to pay you on a recurring basis, like with Netflix, does something absolutely magical for your business. It makes your revenue predictable. You're not starting from zero every single month, and that is a massive advantage when you're trying to fund your growth. Scarcity models, these are all about psychology. When you limit the quantity of something or the time it's available, you create this incredible sense of urgency. Zara totally mastered this, selling out new designs so quickly that they could pay their suppliers with the customer's money. That's that float principle in action again. And finally, the service-to-product model. You can think of this as getting paid to do your own market research. You start out selling a custom service, and you use that revenue and all the know-how you gained to figure out exactly what the market needs. Then you go build it, which is exactly how Bill Gates got his start on the way to creating Microsoft. Okay, so these models sound pretty cool in theory, right? But let's see how they actually play out in the real world with a couple of incredible founder stories. Let's start with Michael Dell back in his dorm room at the University of Texas. He had this amazing insight. He realized he could buy all the PC parts, build these souped-up, custom computers that were way better than anything you could get in a store, and sell them directly to people. But here's the absolute genius move. He made customers pay him up front. He literally used their cash to go buy the parts he needed. He had zero inventory risk and a perfectly customer-funded business from day one. Now for a totally different kind of story.
When Mel and Patricia Ziegler started Banana Republic, they got their hands on the surplus of old Spanish paratrooper shirts. That first weekend at a flea market, they priced them at like $1.95, and they barely sold any. But then Patricia had this light bulb moment. She said, the shirts are too cheap. People can't see the value. The next weekend, they jacked up the price to nearly 7 times what it was, and the shirts just flew off the table. It's such a powerful lesson. Price signals value.
But here's the other piece of the puzzle. They went to a bank to get a loan and got flat out rejected. But the banker gave them a piece of advice that literally changed everything for them. He said, look, you don't qualify for a loan, but have you ever thought about asking your suppliers for terms? Which is basically just asking for more time to pay them. So by getting customers to pay cash up front and then getting their suppliers to let them pay 30 days later, they could completely fund their growth. It's that float principle all over again. So after all that, what does this actually mean for you? Let's kind of pull all these lessons together and see how you can start your own customer-funded journey. So the advantages here are crystal clear. This whole approach gives you 2 things that are just invaluable: proof and power. You get proof that you're actually building something people want, which de-risks the whole venture right from the start. And you get power, the power that comes from owning your company, from being in control, and from being able to negotiate with future investors if you even need them from a position of strength, not desperation. So if there's one big thing to take away from all this, it's simple. Shift your focus. The most important resource you need for your new business isn't an investor's check. It's your first paying customer. Obsess over solving their problems, not over perfecting your fundraising pitch. And that really just leaves us with one last essential question. I want you to forget about pitch decks for a minute. Just look at your idea, think about these 5 models we talked about, and really ask yourself, how can your customers fund your journey? The answer to that question might just be the key to building a business that truly lasts.